The city of Hoang Lam at dusk was cast in a reddish-orange glow, the final rays of sunlight cutting through the high-rise buildings and splashing patches of bright light onto the streets. Among these structures stood a notable one, the Phat Tower, the headquarters of a rapidly developing real estate conglomerate. This was where it all began, the site where conspiracies, betrayals, and ambitious dreams took shape. Stepping out of a car was Minh Than, the 35-year-old CEO of Phat. With a cold expression and deep-set eyes, his gaze commanded both respect and fear. Than was not inherently malicious, but to him, the world was a chessboard, and everyone was a pawn. He entered the building, where senior staff were busy preparing for a critical meeting with foreign investors. A few blocks away, in a luxurious apartment, Elena, Than's wife, was preparing dinner. Beautiful, intelligent, and charming, Elena was 6 months pregnant. Her face radiated happiness, yet was tinged with worry. The life growing inside her was not just a gift, but the sole vulnerability Than had never revealed to anyone. Inside the Phat Tower, the meeting was tense. Mr. The company's strategic advisor, a man in his 60s and a master of calculating risks and opportunities, offered a sharp analysis. We have the chance to expand our projects into the central region market, but the competition includes more than just domestic corporations. They are willing to use any means necessary to bring us down, he said, his voice deep and decisive. Than nodded, his eyes flashing with resolve. The dirtier they play, the sharper we must be. I will not tolerate a single mistake. The meeting concluded, but just outside the room, a shadowy figure was recording every detail through a hidden listening device. Ha Kiet, a former Phat employee recently fired under suspicion of stealing information, was in possession of sensitive project documents. Kiet had not forgotten the feeling of betrayal, and a meticulous plan for revenge was simmering within him. As night fell and the city lights flickered, Elena received an enigmatic text message: "Nothing is safe anymore. In just a few moves, the truth will explode." A chill ran down her spine as she looked around the room. Than was absent, and she wondered if this danger was related to her husband's perilous business. The next day, a sudden accident occurred at one of Phat's key construction sites. Scaffolding collapsed, 2 workers were seriously injured, and the project ground to a halt. The media quickly seized the story, publishing horrifying images that caused the company's stock to plummet drastically. Than stood outside the meeting room, watching the news spread across the screen, yet his eyes betrayed no panic. This is the first test, he thought. I must find out who is behind this. Meanwhile, in the shadows of an abandoned house, Ha Kiet smiled coldly. He had tracked Than's every move for a week, knowing precisely when to strike. Just a few more moves, Kiet muttered, and everything will fall into my hands. You'll have no way back. Sensing the encroaching danger, Elena sought help from an old friend, Lan Ha, a private investigator specializing in economic cases. Lan Ha promised to help find the truth, knowing that the deeper they dug, the more terrifying the secrets would become. In the ensuing days, Hoang Lam City was engulfed in a chain of strange events. Phat was repeatedly attacked with illegal business tactics, fake news, and lawsuits from rivals. But Than was not alone. He knew how to use his power, intellect, and even his underground connections to counterattack. The pressure continued to mount. The next day, Than entered his office like a whirlwind. He showed no sign of anxiety to his staff. On the contrary, his eyes were sharp, cold, and decisive. We must identify the person behind this. I want every detail meticulously checked. Leave nothing out, Than commanded with a deep, authoritative voice. Unbeknownst to Than, Ha Kiet was sitting in a small coffee shop a few blocks from the Phat headquarters. Before him lay a map of the city, with red marks highlighting the locations of every project and branch office. Sipping his black coffee, Kiet's eyes glinted with satisfaction. Just a few more hits, and everything will fall into my hands. Ha Kiet had found a loophole. Several contracts with Hoang Phat's foreign partners had yet to be fully executed, and this information could be leaked to create doubt about Phan's management capability. He quickly sent a fake email, purportedly from a foreign partner, accusing Phan and the company of financial fraud. The email immediately spread internally, causing confusion among many employees. Meanwhile, Alina received another message from the unknown number. He is no longer safe, nor are you. Avoid all trouble before it's too late. Her heart pounded, but she remained calm. Instead, she decided to meet Lan Ha, the private investigator, to find the true culprit. Lan Ha, a shrewd and composed middle-aged woman, frowned after hearing Alina's story. This is not a simple case of harassment or blackmail. I suspect this is a carefully calculated conspiracy coming from within the company. If we don't act fast, things will spiral out of control. Phan began his internal investigation, deploying trusted staff to scrutinize all company records, surveillance footage, and emails. A series of vague clues emerged: forged contracts, leaked information, and subtly altered financial reports. Still, it wasn't enough to pinpoint the mastermind. Tensions escalated further when a press conference was held by a competitor aimed at damaging Hoang Phat's reputation. The media buzzed, the company's stock dropped, and investors grew suspicious. Facing immense pressure, Phan maintained his composure. He knew that the counterattack had to be subtle but precise, leaving no room for error. That night, Ha Kiet continued his plan. He infiltrated Hoang Phat's computer system, installing spyware to monitor all crucial emails and documents. Every step was meticulously calculated, and he believed that in just a few more days, everything would be entirely within his grasp. What no one knew was that Lan Ha had already detected traces of the spyware. She began tracking the suspicious connections, noticing an anomaly. They all led back to an IP address in the city suburbs, a location Ha Kiet frequently visited. On a rainy night, Alina noticed strange figures lurking around her apartment. Panicked, she called Lan Ha. The two coordinated, beginning to remotely monitor the apartment using cameras and tracking devices. The recorded images chilled Alina, a man in black, stealthily moving around the area, attempting to break in. The next day, Phan received an enigmatic phone call from an unknown source. Minh Phan, you think you control everything, but I know all your weaknesses. Everything will end soon. The voice was deep and firm, forcing Phan to pause, sensing the imminent danger. He knew this was the critical turning point. The enemy was not just trying to bring down the company, but was also targeting his family. At the same time, Alina and Lan Ha uncovered a crucial clue. Ha Kiet was once Phan's trusted employee, fired for suspected fraud. Not only was Alina shocked, but it also revealed that this revenge plot had been prepared for a long time. It was sophisticated and dangerous. Phan, recognizing the threat, began preparing his counteroffensive. He devised a three-step plan. Restore the company's reputation by presenting evidence to prove financial transparency. Investigate Ha Kiet through his underground contacts and trusted hackers. Protect his family, ensuring that Alina and their unborn child were safe and their information was not compromised. Day by day, tensions continued to climb. Ha Kiet launched more sophisticated tricks, fabricating false evidence, instigating disgruntled employees, and even hiring external operatives to cause disruptions at Hoang Phat sites. Phan was constantly forced to deal with the crisis, manage the public image, and protect his company. Meanwhile, Alina began to participate directly in the investigation, coordinating with Lan Ha to gather evidence against Ha Kiet. The relationship between Phan and his wife became strained yet deeper. She recognized her husband's strength, determination, and his vulnerabilities. Their love became the anchor for both of them in this terrible storm. The climax was when Ha Kiet prepared to execute his final move, breaking into Phat's central data center to wipe out all crucial evidence and documents. But he was unaware that Than, in coordination with Lan Ha and Alina, had set an elaborate trap, ready to turn the tables. It was a pouring rainy night, and the city lights cast a chaotic, almost haunting glow on the streets. Ha Kiet entered Phat's central data center. In his hand was a sophisticated data-wiping device, his eyes blazing with confidence. Just a few minutes, and all evidence of the company would vanish, completing his long-simmering revenge plan. But Ha Kiet did not know that a trap had been set. Than, Lan Ha, and Alina had installed hidden surveillance cameras and created an advanced alarm system. The moment Ha Kiet stepped into the room, a message flashed on a large screen before him. Ngo Minh Than knows everything. You have walked into a trap. All your actions are being recorded. Ha Kiet was stunned, disbelieving his eyes. He quickly realized he had been monitored. Yet, instead of panicking, he smirked. He must be joking. I have a plan B. Meanwhile, Than stood in another control room, observing Ha Kiet's every move through the cameras. His gaze was cold but full of determination. This was not just about protecting the company, but his family. Alina stood beside him, clutching his hand. Her presence made Than feel stronger than ever. Lan Ha, like a brilliant strategist, instructed Than step by step, activate the automated lockdown system. When he tries to wipe the data, everything will be backed up on the secondary server. He won't be able to destroy anything. Ha Kiet started his operation, but the more he tried, the more he realized everything was working against him. The data wasn't being wiped, the surveillance cameras were tracking every step, and the alarm system blared a deafening sound. He tried to retreat, but the exit door had automatically locked. Impossible, how can everything be so flawless? Ha Kiet roared, feeling utterly overwhelmed for the first time. Then walked into the data center, the light from the screen illuminating his sharp face. Ha Kiet, everything you did, I anticipated. This plot for revenge ends here. Ha Kiet scoffed, still grasping the wiping device. You think a few small tricks can stop me? You were mistaken from the start. A direct confrontation ensued. Ha Kiet used technical maneuvers to try and override the system lock, but Lan Ha had prepared a signal neutralization device, making all his efforts futile. At the same time, Alina quickly activated the warning system and contacted the company's security guards. Sensing the disadvantage, Ha Kiet began using force to find an escape route. A tense chase took place in the data center, with lights flashing and data screens flickering wildly. Finally, through the seamless coordination of Than, Alina, and Lan Ha, Ha Kiet was subdued. The data-wiping device fell to the ground, shattering. In the ensuing silence, Than stepped forward, his gaze sharp but not cruel. I didn't want to hurt you, but you chose this path, and you must take responsibility. Ha Kiet lay on the floor, breathing heavily, realizing that all his intricate plans had failed. He felt a mix of anger and regret. He had underestimated those around him, especially the ones he considered weak. The next day, Ha Kiet was handed over to law enforcement with full evidence of fraud, system intrusion, and a revenge conspiracy. Phat, under Than's leadership, began to restore its reputation with transparent financial evidence, confirmed partner contracts, and public announcements of its recovery plan. Alina, after days of stress, stood beside Than and smiled. We got through it all. No one can destroy our family anymore. Than squeezed her hand, feeling the warmth, trust, and strength that came from love. In the following days, Phat gradually returned to its growth trajectory, and employee morale stabilized. Despite the scars from the crisis, everyone realized that honesty, vigilance, and cooperation were the strongest weapons against any conspiracy. After the rainy night and the intense confrontation, the city seemed to return to its normal rhythm, but for those involved, everything had fundamentally changed. Phat was no longer a company haunted by conspiracy, but a symbol of steadfastness and the triumph of justice. Thanh stood on his office balcony, looking out at the city under the morning sun. He took a sip of coffee, sighing, feeling tired but serene. The past few days had taught him that power was not for manipulation, but for protection and leadership. Alina approached, placing her hand on his shoulder, gentle yet warm. "You're tired, but everything is fine now." Thanh smiled. "Yes, but this battle didn't just end outside. We must restore trust for our employees, our partners, and especially ourselves." Lan Ha, taking on a project management role, began creating detailed plans for the company's restructuring. Departments were reorganized, security procedures were tightened, and a transparent data management system was expanded, ensuring no chance for malicious individuals to infiltrate again. Meanwhile, Ha Kiet in the detention center faced a long period of contemplating his mistakes. Day after day, he reviewed his entire revenge plot, realizing that he had allowed hatred to blind him, causing him to lose himself. On a sunny afternoon, Ha Kiet wrote in his journal, "I thought the power of technology would help me get revenge, but in reality, only honesty and patience triumph over all conspiracies. I have learned the most painful lesson of my life." At the same time, Phat employees began to return to work. They witnessed changes in the workplace, one where everyone was respected, efforts were recognized, and the fear of conspiracy or power manipulation was gone. A young employee named Minh, who witnessed the entire crisis, told a colleague, "They proved that even when facing the greatest danger, cooperation and integrity will always win." The company quickly resumed its strong development. Unfinished projects were completed, contracts with foreign partners were signed, and market confidence recovered rapidly. Thanh also realized that success was not just measured by profit, but by how people were treated and the maintenance of ethical values. Ha Kiet, after months of rehabilitation, participated in a personality restoration program. He met with those who were victims of his conspiracy, apologizing and taking responsibility. Gradually, he learned to control his emotions, forgive, and find a new way of life. All old conspiracies and hatred became lessons, and he found peace in accepting the past to live for the present and the future. A year later, Phat held a celebration, not only to honor its business achievements, but also to commend the collective spirit of solidarity, courage, and resilience. Thanh, Alina, and Lan Ha stood on stage, looking down at faces full of faith and hope. Alina whispered to Thanh, "We have overcome everything together. Nothing can destroy our family and company anymore." Thanh held her hand, his eyes shining. "That's right. And I know that as long as we maintain our faith and integrity, any challenge can be overcome."